They had just become husband and wife. 1 hour later, they were both dead. What happened in that single hour will haunt you and reveal a truth more devastating than anyone expected. Stay with us and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Zara Monroe and Ezra Kamau had known each other since they were 4. Their mothers called it fate. Their fathers called it inevitable. Everyone else just watched them grow up like two pieces of the same sentence. Zara, bold and magnetic, a girl who turned fabric scraps into art. Ezra, steady and quiet, the kind of boy who rebuilt entire cities in the margins of his notebooks. By the time they turned 16, it wasn't a matter of if they'd fall in love, just when. It happened on a rooftop in Crestwood Glen. Zara was sketching in the fading light, and Ezra was lying beside her, watching the clouds. The breeze made her hair shift across her face. She didn't look at him when she asked, "Do you ever think about us? About what we could be?" He didn't answer with words. They kissed, and that was the beginning of everything. Their love wasn't loud. It was consistent. As they moved through college, she at Solara School of Design, he at Berkeley, they built something real. Zara launched Monroe Atelier, designing pieces stitched with cultural history and resistance. Ezra focused on preserving Black heritage through sustainable architecture. While their peers chased validation, they created legacy. Weekends were theirs. Road trips, art galleries, long conversations about the future neither of them feared. He once told her, "You're the only person who makes the world feel permanent." She smiled and said, "Then build it around me." They did. And when Ezra proposed on the cliffs of Mendocino, Zara didn't cry. She just laughed, pulled him into her arms and whispered, "I thought you'd never ask." They chose organized the marriage ceremony in the Hollow Crest Estate for the View, a private coastal manor perched high above the cliffs of Big Sur, where the Pacific stretched endlessly in every direction. Zara wanted the ceremony outdoors, sunlight on her skin, wind in her veil. Ezra just wanted to see her walking toward him. That's all he ever really wanted. The day arrived wrapped in gold, a sky so clear it felt designed. Rows of white roses lined the aisle. Family and friends filled the seats, artists, activists, architects, and elders. Their story wasn't just personal anymore. It had become communal, the kind of love people held up like proof that good things still existed in the world. Zara's gown shimmered in the sun, hand-stitched by women from her mother's cultural center. Ezra wore a custom ivory suit lined with kente silk, a quiet tribute tucked into every seam. As she stepped onto the aisle, time slowed. He forgot the crowd. She forgot the music. It was just them, again. Their vows weren't rehearsed. Ezra spoke first. "I've loved you for so long, it's hard to remember a time before you. You are my home, and I will build every part of my life around you." Zara didn't flinch. "I knew it when I was 16. I know it now. I choose you, not for the good days, but for all of them." When the officiant said the words, "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the applause came like a wave. Ezra pulled her close. They kissed under open sky, and the crowd stood in celebration of something that felt bigger than two people. It felt like history. The reception sparkled, champagne flowed. Zara's mother gave a toast that made everyone cry. Ezra's father told a story about a broken chair Ezra had fixed at age 7, and how even back then he was trying to hold things together. And then, as dusk painted the cliffs in orange and rose, Darius Monroe stood and raised his glass. "I have one more gift," he said, beaming at his daughter. "Something to mark the beginning of your forever." The crowd turned. A sleek black helicopter waited on the estate's private helipad, blade still. Darius nodded. "Just you two, a ride along the coast before the night ends. See the world the way it looks from above, together." Zara's jaw dropped. Ezra blinked in disbelief. They didn't know it yet, but in exactly 1 hour, that sky would betray them. The sun had just dipped below the horizon when the helicopter lifted off from the Hollow Crest helipad. Below, the reception still glowed with candlelight and celebration. Laughter echoed across the courtyard. Guests raised glasses. Someone called out, "Take pictures from the sky." Zara was still laughing as she settled into her seat, the hem of her gown tucked around her knees. Ezra reached for her hand. She squeezed it. "Can you believe this?" she whispered. He smiled. "Only because you're here." The pilot's voice crackled through the headset. "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Kamau. We'll head north up the coast. Smooth air tonight." The blade spun faster. The cliffs fell away beneath them. As they ascended, the world changed. The estate grew small, then vanished behind a ridge. The Pacific opened wide, deep blue fading into black. Moonlight shimmered on the water like it had been poured there. The sky stretched overhead in silence. They didn't speak for a while. They didn't need to. Zara leaned her head on Ezra's shoulder. Her fingers traced the gold embroidery on his sleeve. "This doesn't feel real," she said softly. "It is," he said, "and I'm never letting go of it." She closed her eyes, breathed him in. They had talked so much about their future, building a studio on the coast, traveling to Dakar, designing homes and dresses with history in every detail. For the first time, it didn't feel like dreaming. It felt like they had stepped into the life they'd built thread by thread, brick by brick. Then the helicopter jolted. Hard. Zara sat up straight. "What was that?" The pilot's voice came through again, calm but firmer now. "We've hit an unexpected crosswind. Nothing to worry about. Just hold on." Ezra reached across her lap, buckling her in tighter. "It's okay," he said. But his hand didn't leave hers. Another jolt, sharper. The aircraft dipped. Lights on the dashboard flashed red. The pilot's voice returned, tense this time. "We're losing lift. Stay calm." Zara's breath caught. She turned to Ezra. "What's happening?" He didn't answer. He was listening, watching, the way he always did when something was out of his control. Then came the third hit. The tail kicked sideways. The aircraft spun. "Brace!" the pilot yelled. Zara screamed. Ezra pulled her into his chest as the sky twisted into blackness. The impact was deafening. Metal screamed as it collided with stone, the rotor blades snapping like twigs against the cliff face. Glass shattered. Sparks erupted. The helicopter crumpled into itself as it slammed against the mountainside just below the ridgeline, then skidded, half sliding, half teetering, until it lodged against an outcropping. One part of it hung over open air. The Pacific churned hundreds of feet below. Inside, everything was smoke and silence. Zara came to first, her lungs burned, her vision blurred. Somewhere nearby, flames crackled, growing louder. Her right shoulder throbbed. Her ribs felt wrong. But through the haze, one word formed. "Ezra." She turned, choking on smoke, and saw him slumped against the crushed remains of his seat. Blood stained the side of his face. His chest was rising, but barely. "Ezra," she rasped, crawling toward him, glass slicing into her palms. "Ezra, wake up." No response. The cabin creaked violently above them. A sound like groaning metal echoed down the cliff. The back of the helicopter was on fire now, orange flames licking closer. Wires sparked overhead. The whole wreck trembled as if threatening to slide further. Zara gritted her teeth and grabbed him by the collar. "You're not dying. Not here." With what strength she had left, she hooked her arms under his and dragged, inch by inch. Her dress tore. Her body screamed. But she didn't stop. Not until they reached the opening, where the metal had split wide from the force of the crash. Outside, the ground was steep and uneven, but it was solid. One final pull. They tumbled out together. Seconds later, the interior exploded behind them. The blast sent a rush of heat and debris that knocked her sideways. Her ears rang. Smoke thickened the air. Fire lit the night in flickers of orange and shadow. But they were out. They were still alive. Zara rolled to her knees, coughing violently. She reached for Ezra again. He was unconscious, but breathing. Barely. His skin was cold. "Stay with me," she whispered, pressing her forehead to his. "Please, just hold on." Above them, the wreck groaned again. A new danger was coming. The ground beneath them was giving way, and they were still too close to the edge. Zara's hands trembled as she pressed them to Ezra's chest, feeling the faint rise and fall beneath her palms. His breath was shallow, uneven, but still there. She looked at him, his face bruised and bloodied, the perfect suit now torn and soaked in red, and felt her throat close. "I've got you," she whispered, even as her body screamed with pain. "But we have to move." Behind them, the fire roared louder. The wreckage hissed, buckled, and moaned, metal warping under heat. Sparks rained from twisted wires, lighting the ground in quick flashes. Another section of the helicopter collapsed in a burst of flame, sending a shower of debris across the rocks. Zara flinched but didn't stop. She dragged him again, arms hooked beneath his shoulders, her feet scrambling for grip on the slope. The soil was loose, the incline sharp. Her ribs felt like they might crack with every movement, but she kept pulling. Ezra groaned softly, his head lolling back. His eyelids fluttered. "Ezra," she gasped, choking on smoke. Open your eyes. He stirred. Barely. His hand twitched. I'm here, he murmured, his voice so faint she barely heard it. You're okay. No, she said, tears streaking through soot on her cheeks. You don't tell me I'm okay. You hold on. That's your job. He smiled, weak, broken. I love you. Zara froze. No, she said again, shaking her head. Don't say that like it's goodbye. Another groan from the wreck, this one deeper. Final. The ground beneath them shifted. Rocks cracked. A sharp jolt sent both of them sliding several feet toward the edge. Zara screamed. Her fingers dug into the dirt, catching on a root. Ezra slipped further. She reached out, caught his wrist just in time. The rest of the wreckage gave way with a sound like thunder. Steel tore free. Fire leapt skyward. The main body of the helicopter tumbled off the cliff in a blur of smoke and flame, crashing into the sea below. The impact lit up the night like lightning. A wave of heat rushed upward, followed by silence. Then, the slope beneath them began to collapse. For a split second, time stopped. Zara looked into Ezra's eyes, barely open now, dazed. She mouthed the words, I'm not letting go. But gravity didn't care. The earth crumbled, their bodies slid, and then they were falling, together. They fell together, Zara's fingers still locked around Ezra's wrist as the ground gave way beneath them. The cliff disappeared, replaced by open air and cold wind. For a split second, there was nothing but motion, gravity, and the knowledge that everything was about to change. When they hit, the rocks didn't stop them gently. Zara's body slammed against a jagged ledge, her spine arching from the shock before she rolled, landing hard in a patch of flattened brush below. The wind was knocked from her lungs, and for a moment, all she could hear was the roar of blood in her ears. She lay there, limbs screaming, eyes wide, the pain so loud it silenced everything else. But her mind cleared with one word. Ezra. She turned her head slowly. A few feet away, draped awkwardly against a blackened boulder, lay the man she had just married. His ivory suit was slashed and stained, his face bloodied and still. But his chest rose. Barely. She crawled to him, her arms trembling beneath her, dress torn, breath short. Every inch forward was a battle against fire in her ribs and sharp stones beneath her knees. But she didn't stop. She reached him and placed both hands on his chest, as if pressing down could anchor his soul in place. Ezra, she whispered, her voice breaking, stay with me. His eyes fluttered open, just a sliver, his lips parted, but nothing came. She cupped his face, her hands streaked with blood and soot, and leaned close until his breath touched her cheek. You're going to be okay, she said. You don't get to leave. Not yet. Not like this. A faint smile tugged at his lips. Zara, he rasped. We made it, didn't we? She nodded through tears. We did. You're here. I've got you. His fingers twitched. He looked at her, not with fear, but with the softness of someone who had spent a lifetime knowing only one answer to every question. You asked me once, he whispered, if we were more than just this. His breath faltered, his gaze dimmed. We were, he said. Zara gripped him tighter, her forehead pressed against his. She felt his warmth slip, and when it did, it took a piece of her with it. Above them, the cliff stood quiet. The last of the smoke curled into the night sky. In the far distance, the wail of sirens echoed faintly, but it was already too late. The rescue teams arrived just before dawn. Searchlights cut through the coastal fog as medics rappelled down the cliffside, their boots crunching over scorched gravel and broken steel. The wreckage was still warm, its metal shell warped and blackened, half of it resting on a rocky ledge, the other scattered below like shattered bone. When they found Zara and Ezra, there were no words. She was lying beside him, her arms around his chest, her forehead resting just above his heart. There was no pulse, no movement. But there was still warmth between them, like the cliff itself refused to let them go cold. The first responder who reached them paused longer than protocol allowed. He didn't speak. He simply removed his helmet and lowered his head. News of the crash traveled fast. Before the sun rose, it reached the guests still sleeping at Hollow Crest. Celebration turned to screams. Zara's mother collapsed against the garden railing. Ezra's father walked away from the crowd without a word, stopping only when he reached the cliff's edge and saw the smoke still rising in the distance. The estate that had echoed with music hours earlier now sat in stunned silence. White rose petals, once tossed with joy, lay trampled in the dirt. Half-filled champagne glasses sat untouched, and everywhere, eyes searched the sky for something they couldn't name. A small group of rescue crew returned to the site after sunrise, tasked with collecting what was left behind. Among the charred debris and scattered silk, they found something that made them stop. Zara's veil. Torn, dirtied, and wind-worn, it had somehow floated down and snagged on a single wildflower growing defiantly from a crack in the cliff wall. Its edges fluttered gently in the breeze, as if refusing to settle. One of the responders reached for it, then paused. "Leave it," another said quietly. "It belongs to this place now." And so it stayed. A delicate thread of memory, a whisper of love that had once soared, a marker not of tragedy, but of what it means to give your whole self to someone, without condition, without end. They were only married for 1 hour, but it was enough for forever. Some love stories aren't measured by time, but by weight, by how deeply they settle in the hearts they touch. Zara and Ezra didn't grow old together. They didn't build the house or start the family or take that trip to Dakar, but they did something even rarer. They loved without hesitation, without holding back. And in the end, they stayed together, until the final breath, the final fall, the final silence. And maybe that's what makes this story unforgettable, not the tragedy, but the devotion, the choice to hold on, even when everything else breaks away. What's one thing you'd hold on to, no matter what? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, share it, because someone else out there might need to be reminded that even in the worst moments, love doesn't always let go. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.